let's move on to your Cubby Blues.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say the Cubs are still hibernating, but they did sign Hector Neris, 35-year-old reliever from the Houston Astros. I'm doing a 1-year, $9 million deal. That's fine. He's a third-tier bullpen guy. Great. If that was the seventh move they had made to address the bullpen or other issues they had with the squad, great. But he's not. He's the first move they made to address the bullpen that was mostly responsible for the collapse that happened in September that you and I were just referencing.
And Cody Bellinger.
Well, yeah, that's part of it too. But the bullpen was out of gas by the end of the season. They have done this one move to address it at this point. Neris he puts up 70 innings every year, which is awesome. I think he's going to be a good addition if Father Time hasn't caught up with him. As I mentioned, he's 35 years old. We'll see if he can still be as productive as he has been throughout his career.
You got to have speculation on that. Like, I've seen the White Sox do this move, and it's backfired more than a few times for them.
I don't mind if it backfires because it's a 1-year deal, $9 million. Who gives a fuck about Ricketts' $9 million? But if this is all they're going to do with the bullpen, that's what I'm nervous about. They need to make multiple moves. They should have been making larger moves before this point to address that issue. As more and more free agents tick off the board, the one I mentioned in our last show, Josh Hader, signed with the aforementioned Houston Astros, a monstrous deal that I did not see coming. I don't know. Did you see 5 years, $95 million?
No, I think they're not gonna like the end of that contract.
I don't think they are either, but I wouldn't mind even
but at
if the Cubs had done that.
Yeah,
I would say now you're acting like big boys. They're just gonna they're gonna fucking deal with it at those last 2 years, potentially even more. They could be hating it. They can absorb it. We've talked about this over and over again. All it is money, and especially with a reliever, even if he's not producing, it sucks to have him on your roster, but you just absorb it. I think his production will be tremendous over the next several years. He's just turned 30, but he's going to be benefiting the Houston Astros, one of the teams that need it the least. That was just a shocking deal. But when you see terms like that, that is something the Cubs could have done. They simply chose not to because they refuse to act like big boys. They are a big market team acting like a small market team. This has been well documented. Others that have signed that have been linked to the Cubs, Rhys Hoskins signed with division rivals Milwaukee Brewers.
When that fucking happened, I was like, "Are you kidding me?" Like it looked. The stories were all trending that like the Cubs were on it. The Cubs were on it. The Cubs were on it.
Yeah.
And it's like, what?
Yeah.
And like if he had signed with like someone out of the division or something, I would have been like, whatever. But the fact that he signed with the Brewers means that someone dropped the ball somewhere from the Cubs standpoint.
It's a 2-year, $34 million deal.
It's not even that bad.
The irony is that's exactly twice what they gave to Cody Bellinger last year. 1 year, $17 million.
Yeah.
So the Brewers can somehow step up and do this, but the Cubs can't figure it out. I'll get back to Bellinger because there is reasoning behind that. We've talked about it a little bit before.
Yeah, no, the Bellinger deal was solid.
I'll just talk about Bellinger now. I mean, yeah, that deal is great. We always say there are no bad 1-year deals. What he's potentially looking for now is 7 or 8 years, $200+ million.
It would be dumb if that's where they're going to put their money.
And that's why I've been totally against signing him for that kind of deal from the beginning. I mentioned that before the season even ended last year. So that's a non-starter. But what in the Cubs' defense and Jed Hoyer's defense is I've been raking him over the coals for the last several years and even more this year with his inactivity. And we talked about this last show. He doesn't want to bid against himself. And I don't blame him. There's no reason to do that, as it has now been reported by Bob Nightingale, of all people, but it's been reported that there have been no offers across all of Major League Baseball for the services of Cody Bellinger to this point. So why would the Cubs be in any rush to go offer him some crazy deal if they don't want to? Why why not wait until his price comes down for whatever Scott Boras is asking right now? It has to come down at some point, especially if no one is biting. I don't blame Jed Hoyer for sitting on his hands this long, specifically with Cody Bellinger. I blame him for sitting on his hands, not signing others. Certainly the bullpen is something he could have been addressing all along, not waiting till this week to do it. Bellinger there's been reports that Bellinger wants to be a Cub. His family's, they love being in Chicago. They want to return. It makes sense. He certainly had a renaissance here in Chicago. I could see them doing it again. That you and I have talked about the myriad reasons why that might not be a great idea. Why his overall numbers might be a bit of a mirage from 2023 because of this precipitous drop in September where he was blown away by velocity. And his track record is so sporadic, going from an MVP candidate, an MVP, to one of the worst hitters in baseball over his time with the Dodgers. So I'd be fine again with a short term, maybe even high money deal, because again, who gives a fuck? It's Ricketts billions to spend. Even if they give him a bunch of money and he doesn't perform, they can deal with it if it's a short term contract and doesn't bottle things up. So the more time passes, the less I get upset about Hoyer not pulling the trigger on a Bellinger deal. I didn't want him to begin with, but this actually helps the situation because I think that those years come down. If not, maybe the average annual value doesn't necessarily come down, but the years come down. That works in the Cubs and in my argument's favor. There are still other options. You don't have to hang everything on Cody Bellinger, but they are going away, like we said, with Rhys Hoskins. Cubs certainly need a corner infielder still. Matt Chapman's still out there. We'll see what's going on. I don't have. Nobody really knows what's happening with any of these things. They're all rumors, but I don't know that if he has an interest in the Cubs, what that might cost. I think that would be a pretty hefty price tag. I'm not sure. Again, you'd have to see the number of years. I don't like signing anyone to long year deals, but Chapman is a plausible alternative to Bellinger. But it sounds like the industry is starting to believe Bellinger is coming to the Cubs one way or the other. And I guess the longer this plays out, it works in the Cubs' advantage. And maybe if that happens and we see the terms of the deal, I will have to capitulate and give Jed Hoyer some kudos for the way he negotiated this. But the way he's done the rest of this and the previous offseason is just driving me and most Cubs fans absolutely crazy.
Word Hole Media.